awesome.
And it's very hard for people to actually know what you're talking about until they have experienced it.
That's so true.
But how do we experience the presence of God? Number one, you got to make yourself available to Him. You know, and when you say, God, I'm available, a songwriter says, my storage is empty. And I'm open and I'm ready. I am available to you. Use me, Lord, to show someone the way. You know, and if you really want the presence of the Lord to be complete, see, God is a, you know, He respects, He doesn't bully us into things.
No,
He said, hey, you invite me in, then I'll come in. Maybe the question should be for somebody this evening, Pastor, how often do you invite the presence of the Lord in your home? How often do you invite the presence of the Lord in your decision? How often do you invite the presence of the Lord in what you're about to do? Because a lot of times people don't want to be convicted. And that is why they usher the presence of the Lord out. And they say, I don't want, let me just decide on this thing all by myself. Because we already know, we already know that God is going to tell you, this is not for you. We already know that God is going to say, don't you go this direction. But sometimes we just keep God out because we want to try it or to get that immediate or temporary joy or pleasure.
Well, you know what? The nature of us as human beings is to do it ourselves, to get it done. I got it. That's the attitude. It's the independent spirit. But God will not. He didn't make anyone that could live independent of Him. So He is ready. He's just ready to come in and do what we need done, no matter what. And I may not be following your train of thought there, but good. Maybe you can state it again. But okay,
we're good. Here's what I would go to, because we had David. I want to talk about David a little bit, and we have David, and I'm going to talk about Simon. Is it Simon? But we'll get there. But David, in the book of Psalm chapter 43, in fact 42, chapter 42 is really when it started, when David began to say, hey, God, I feel lonely. I feel distressed. I feel empty. I feel like I'm alone. I feel like, but he begins to speak, and he says, for you are the God in whom I take refuge. You know, sometimes when people are in a lonely place, Pastor, they don't get to the place where they begin to petition God to show up. My Lord. I mean, I could look at so many different areas in the book of Psalm where David really petitioned God. I know that David wasn't in the mood at all times to make a joyful noise unto the Lord. But the way the presence of the Lord, and I want to talk to somebody, the way the presence of the Lord shows up is when you feel like you don't want to praise Him. When you feel like you don't have the energy and you don't have the effort to push, it is a perfect time to say, Lord, I'm going to make a joyful noise unto the Lord. David didn't feel like the Lord was with him all the time. That's why he said, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He got to places in his life where he feel lonely and he feel like he is by himself because of things that he did, which we all are in positions and we all are guilty of that. Things that we did pull us away from or make us feel far away from the presence of the Lord. But David says, listen, man, I got to petition God to come back, or for the presence of the Lord to be present in my life.
Oh, yes. And, you know, David was such a great an example of looking to God. And I love following his example. David said on one occasion, he said, when my heart is overwhelmed within me, Lord, lead me to a rock that is higher than I. See, Jesus is the rock. And I'm telling you, that is what we present to you tonight, Jesus the rock. Because if you don't look to the rock, then you're not going to make it. David said, when my heart is overwhelmed. He was overwhelmed. But God. But God. And tonight we want to say to you, you can be overwhelmed. There are many times we're overwhelmed. All of us. If you are a born-again child of God, if you're someone who named the name Christ,
Yes.
you're going to find overwhelming situations. But if you will focus your attention on the rock,
yes, come on.
Jesus is the rock, you will overcome because he has the power. And you know, David, no matter what he went through, God brought him out every time. And sometimes he came out with scars. He came out with pain,
yes.
but he came out anyway. And the Lord is the one that's able to ease the trouble in mind, because that's what he experienced. And if you're a child of God, you're going through it, but there is hope.
Yes.
There's hope in Christ.